Fred, is that the biggest headline on the first full day of the new NFL season might well have been made face down on the pavement outside the stadium in Miami. These images are quite extraordinary when you consider the stature of Tyreek Hill and how he's regarded within the NFL and certainly within Miami. We understand from his agent that he was involved in a police stop. And let's just hear from the agent, Drew Rosenhaus, about what actually happened.
Apparently got a ticket for moving violation entering the stadium. How things escalated into the situation that they were in handcuffs and being held on the ground with police is mind-boggling to me. I'm deeply concerned by that, very troubled. We will be looking into it. We will be investigating this. We will look out for Tyreek.
So Rosenhaus, the agent, Fred, saying that his client was rattled, physically okay, but mentally distraught. And he really wanted to focus on the game, which Hill is currently playing in against Jacksonville right now. He's made caught three passes in the game so far. But clearly this story is just exploding. Within the last few minutes, Miami-Dade Police Department.
Okay, there's something else I want to bring to you guys' attention when it comes to the Tyreek Hill case. Fair use, fair use. This was a report. I couldn't find this independent video, so shout out to Shannon Sharp for finding this clip. But I really want you guys to look at this clip and listen to this young man, because Tyreek Hill never mentioned race in his interview after the post-game, during the post-game interview of the Dolphins game. He never mentioned race. I know that we understand as Black people in America that race, in our opinion, is always an underlying factor, because we don't see white Americans at the same level, at the same amount, at the same rate get treated as though we are, just as well as Asians, just as well as Hispanics. It seems as though we're being treated more brutally than any other group. So that is our experience, okay? Based upon the many statistics, when you look at different reports that come out from the FBI, different reports that come out from the Department of Justice of police brutality to one particular demographics, okay? So fair use with this clip here. I want you guys to hear what this a football teammate of Tyreek Hill had to say.
You know what I'm saying? Excessive force on a Black man, that's not uncommon. It's a very common thing in America, so I think that needs to be addressed at a country-wide level. So yeah, I don't think that shit is cool at all. But you know, it's not unnatural or not uncommon for cops to do that type of shit, especially the Black man. So that needs to be addressed, sure.
I've been trying to figure that out too. Man. Right now, I'm still trying to put it all together. So I'm not gonna give you a version that I still don't know what happened. You know what I'm saying? But I do want to be able to use this platform to say, like, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill, bro? So I got a lot of respect for cops, man. But obviously, you know, everybody has bad apples in every situation, you know. So I want to be able to, you know, use this platform, you know, to figure out a way to, like, flip this and, you know, make it a positive on both ends, on my end and then also Miami-Dade, you know, so that way we continue together and, you know, do something positive for the community.
So he stated, if I wasn't Tyreek Hill. Now, I think that means if he wasn't Tyreek Hill, he would have ended up in jail. He would have probably end up in prison, even though this was a traffic stop. And of course, Fox News, they stated that Tyreek Hill was uncooperative during detention before game. What do they mean that he was not cooperating with police? What does that mean? So you pulled him over for speeding because you thought that because of the rate of speed he was driving, they didn't state that he was recklessly driving. Let's take, for instance, that the speed limit is 35 miles per hour. He was going 45, maybe 50. I don't know the rules in Miami. I don't know the rules in Florida, what dictates what is reckless driving. But this is a traffic stop, okay? And I'm going to read some of this article to you guys, okay? It says that Hill was detained near Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday before the Dolphins played the Jacksonville Jaguars. Videos posted on social media captured the intense moment, which was a talk in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. They said Mr. Campbell also said he was handcuffed as he tried to cool everyone down. That is one Tyreek's one of his teammates. They stated that the police union president, Stedman Style, said Hill was detained for officer safety after driving in a manner in which he was putting himself and others in great risk of danger. Now, I'm speculating here, family. I hate to do that, but I'm speculating. Maybe they never stated that he was speeding, okay? They never said he was speeding. Let's say he was speeding, and let's say he was changing lanes very quickly, because if anyone knows about professional football, these guys have to be there most likely 2 hours before game day. 2 hours before kickoff, okay? And that's to go through all the things they need to go through. It goes on to state that upon being stopped, Mr. Hill was not immediately cooperative with the officers on the scene. Pursuit to policy and for their immediate safety, okay? Listen to this, and this is how a lot of times Black people in America get done up, and how social media rhetoric and racist and those people who probably never been touched have responded in some form of matter. It says to policy and for their immediate safety. What do they mean by that? I think Tyreek Hill is probably 5'10", maybe 185 pounds. I don't know exactly, but he is a very muscular guy. But nonetheless, they said for their safety, it was around 4 or 5 of them. The statement read, Mr. Hill, still uncooperative, refused to sit on the ground and was therefore redirected to the ground. Okay, family, I'm no law enforcement. I'm not a lawyer. If you guys are familiar with police tactics and or laws, the only time that a police officer, again, from the information I have, can give you a lawful order and make you sit on the ground is when you are being detained. At no time have I read that Tyreek Hill was being detained. First of all, they removed him from the vehicle. They asked him to step outside the vehicle, which he did. And then they asked him to sit on the ground. Okay, sit on the ground, sit on the curb. This is normal police procedure, but was he being detained? That's the question I have. Now, this is Andy Slater. It states here Miami Dolphins wide receiver was uncooperative and initiated this unfortunate incident. They're stating that he initiated this unfortunate incident. And here's the police report or the media statement by the way of the South Florida Police Benevolent Association. It says, before the Dolphins game yesterday, and I'm gonna kind of just speed through the fluff here. Upon being stopped, Mr. Hill, let me blow this up for you guys. It stated that upon being stopped, Mr. Hill was not immediately cooperative with the officers. Again, the public, and I'm pretty sure his law team will get involved with this. What do you mean he wasn't cooperative? Did you ask him for his license and registration and he didn't abide by your lawful order because he was driving erratically? Because they never stated that he was speeding, right? They said that he was driving in an unsafe manner. They didn't state that he wasn't signaling if he was switching lanes. I don't know, family. This is all speculation. But I'm getting, if you guys ever been pulled over, you say, hey, why am I being pulled over? Okay, you were speeding. So give me your license and registration. Okay, cool. Why am I being pulled over? You was changing lanes without using your signal. Okay, your brake light was out. We have all these different things that police will tell us, but none of these reports are stating that. They probably just saw a black man in a $300,000 to $400,000 car and wanted to fuck with him. Again, speculation. It goes on to state here to policy, and this is why the police pulled him over, for their immediate safety, place Mr. Hill in handcuffs. Now, he was wearing a tank top and sweatpants. What do they mean by their immediate safety? He was not behind the wheel of the vehicle. Okay, as far as I know, they patted him down. He did not have a weapon, so I don't understand for their immediate safety. I have no idea. But again, this could be proper police procedure. So again, for you guys who are going to refute what I'm stating, there you go. It says that he refused to sit on the ground and therefore was redirected to the ground. That means that they forcibly put him to the ground. Got it. Once the situation was sorted out within a few minutes, Mr. Hill was issued 2 traffic citations and was free to leave. I want to know those 2 traffic citations. Because any other time, and I think when Tyreek Hill was stating that, what if he wasn't Tyreek Hill? Would they have stated he resisted arrest, he failed to obey police orders, etc.? It goes on to state here, we would like to stress the community to use this as an opportunity to remember that it's always best to obey lawful police commands and complain later. We have worked hard across all communities to bridge the gap between what people believe law enforcement should and can do. Okay. And we continue to do this in this case, and we'll wait for the investigation to run its course based on what we know. And another thing that wasn't mentioned in this media statement by the South Florida Police Association is that they show on tape that one of the police officers actually kicked Tyreek Hill, and another police officer actually put a knee in the middle of his back, which may be, again, proper police procedure of controlling the suspect on the ground. But the police brutality is the kick that a lot of people are not mentioning. I believe there was only a teammate of Tyreek Hill that actually pointed out that he was being kicked. And again, you guys can, there's many of news agencies that's reporting about this particular situation, but I really wanted to know, what do you guys think? Are you guys aware of this? And unfortunately, this is typical police behavior when involved an unarmed, innocent black man. Again, I don't know the 2 citations that he was cited on. The only thing I can probably come up with, he was signaling, he was changing lanes without using his signal, or he was speeding 10 to 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. But any of the reports, no one is stating what he did. They keep stating that he was being uncooperative. Why did they pull him over? They just say that he was driving in an unsafe manner. What does that mean? Again, I digress. But family, let's get into the heart of the video here. We're talking about the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Let's get into it. Like anything else, family, I just want to break down the definition of policy and or policies. Of course, the principle of action adopted or proposed by a government, party, business, or individual. They also have some other breakdowns of here. A policy is a set of ideas or plans that is used as a basis for making decisions, especially in politics, economics, and or business. So we're talking about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. They have their debate tomorrow. Welcome back to Blacklogic, because we're going to cut through some of the noise. We're going to dissect the politics and break down what's really at stake for Black America. And in a lot of cases, family, and America as a whole, okay? Let's get one thing straight. In my opinion, this is just not another debate. This is kind of a battle between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. One, you're going to have a lot of, I don't want to say low information voters. I'm going to say very emotional Black voters jumping on the bandwagon of Kamala Harris and not asking the one question that, if you're truly for your people, is what is she going to do? Now that we're going to debate over identity politics, whether she's Indian, Jamaican, or Black, whatever the case may be, what is she going to do specifically for Black Americans who are going to help us to be in a better situation than we already are? Okay, so let's break this down policy by policy, issue by issue. And then at the end, I'll give you my take on who's better equipped to lead the country out of this mess we're in right now, okay, which is affecting everybody. When we talk about infrastructure, and I'm going to tell you this, family, sometimes during this breakdown, you're going to believe that I'm leaning one way or another. I'm giving you my testament now that I'm very, very neutral. Understand that a lot of my breakdowns are collaboration of how news media, social media collab to make one candidate seem superior or better than the other. Let's talk about infrastructure with Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris has put forward what seems to be okay? Not a policy, but a verbal plan to invest in America's crumbling infrastructure. She's talking about $2 trillion over 10 years to rebuild roads, bridges, and the public transit system with a focus on green energy. Because I know you guys are familiar with, she was talking about she was going to ban fracking. And then when Dana Bash was questioning her on her banning of fracking, that she changed her stance. But then she stated, oh, I never changed my values. If you change your stance on banning versus not banning, then you have changed a portion of your values when it comes to fracking and so-called green energy. But I digress. She's always contradicting herself just as well as the orange man. But when we talk about Kamala Harris, she speaks as though she is planning to retrofit millions of homes in buildings to be energy efficient, which will create jobs in renewable energy sectors. And she's going to somehow expand broadband access to what they say underserved communities. Now, when we speak about Trump, he has a different approach. He is more focused on the public-private partnerships and deregulation to spur infrastructure development. His idea is to cut red tape and give incentives to private companies to invest in infrastructure projects. Now, sound good in theory, but we've seen how this plays out, because remember his promise of a $1 trillion infrastructure plan back in 2016. That plan never fully materialized. Now, his emphasis on deregulation may speed up construction, but it often comes at the expense of environmental protections and worker safety. But again, that's for other agencies to really break down what those safety for workers and protections for the environment may entail. Let's talk about trade. When it comes to trade, Kamala is all about re-engaging with her allies and her partners. She's pushing for trade policies that protect American workers and the environment. She wants to renegotiate trade agreements like the USMCA to ensure they include stronger labor and environmental standards. Trump, on the other hand, is likely to double down on his America First trade policies. He argues for tariffs and trade wars, claiming they protect American jobs. And in some regards, I agree. I agree with some of the tariffs. I agree with some of the trades that may materialize into, quote unquote, a trade war. Now, we've seen the fallout from this approach, which has caused in some sectors higher prices for us and strained relationship with China, mostly China, because some people say strained relationships with key trading partners. They're talking about China. Because if you remember the China trade war, it hurt American farmers, and it also hurt manufacturers more than it helped them, because unfortunately, family, China owns a great amount of American farmland. So the two largest holders of American farmland, and please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, is Bill Gates, and one of when we talk about a foreign entity, is China. Okay, social issues. Kamala is very, very unapologetically progressive, because she is advocating for police reform and, again, voting rights, which we already have, and abortion rights. So there's a lot of women that's going to jump on the bandwagon when it comes to abortion rights, because they want, as they're stating, freedom over their bodies. Okay, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not refuting that. I'm just stating a fact. Now, she's also committed to passing the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which aims to curb police brutality and racial profiling. How? See, what I've noticed studying politics here for the last 10 or 12 years, family, is that they always state what they're trying to pass. They always state what they're trying to do, but they never, ever tell you how they're going to do it. And that is when the policies come into mind. That is when the policies need to be shown. How are you going to go about that? Because if you're not punishing the police for brutalizing people and racial profiling, then how are you going to pass legislation that do and does not punish the police for their racial profiling and the brutality of American citizens, especially foundational Black Americans? How? That's the question. Now, Kamala, she also supports codifying Roe versus Wade to protect abortion rights at the federal level. And she's pushing for the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act to safeguard the voting rights of quote unquote marginalized communities. Now, there are some tactics that Republicans are using to decrease the significance of the Black vote in certain jurisdictions where they see a large population of Black folk in one area, and then they just basically gerrymander. They kind of use these invisible lines to separate the power of that vote. And as they, what's the terminology I'm looking for? They re-marginalize these areas. So the Black vote is, the power of the Black vote is now split. So they don't have the same juice. They don't have the same influence that they have when they split a particular community in the way they usually vote. So if it stops that, then I can understand the so-called John Lewis voting rights. But when it comes to the George Floyd, blah, miss me with that. If you read the bill, family, there's no teeth. There's no teeth in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Absolutely none. Now, we talk about social issues when it comes to Trump. Trump is basically doubling down on a very conservative agenda. He's likely to push for more law and order, advocating for police that empower police and curb protests. So that's something to be, looking at as well. He'll talk about securing the border and ending illegal immigration, often using fear-mongering tactics to rally his base, which he's been doing this entire time. And on abortion, he's celebrating the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, and will likely push for more restrictive laws at the state level. Now, that is a stretch. Trump actually said that on the federal level, he doesn't wish that Roe versus Wade is overturned, but he is willing to put legislation out that gives state the right to either lift the ban of abortion for their state or enforce the ban of abortion for their state. So he's giving power to the state. And again, I agree with that. But again, I'm no woman, I'm no female. So if women are going to flock to Kamala Harris to vote for her simply for their abortion rights, then I understand. Okay. Because again, I'm very neutral on both candidates, because unless they're going to do something specifically for Black Americans, then if women want to have the freedom to abort their babies or not, then so be it. Let's talk about business as well as taxes, because Kamala Harris, she is pushing for higher taxes on the wealthy and corporations to fund social programs and reduce income inequalities. She is proposing to roll back some of the Trump's tax cuts for the rich and raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. This is something that I had to think about. What if you work for corporate America and she raises the taxes on the business you work at? Will they reduce your pay? Will they cut your yearly bonus? Will they? You see what I'm saying, family? Because we have to look at this twofold, because some of this sounds good. Oh, yeah, she's going to raise taxes for the super wealthy, and she's going to raise the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. And the question is, how does that affect you? When you start raising tax rates, when you start raising taxes on corporations, how would that affect the employees? What about if you're in the job market right now and you have your bachelor's degree, you have your master's degree, you have years of experience, so you're looking for a six-figure job. Let's say you're looking anywhere from $125,000 to $165,000. But she's talking about raising corporate tax rate. Do you believe that is going to cut into the possible salary and or income that you could be making? Because again, corporations have their ears to the ground. They have their money in the pockets of these politicians. So with that being said, if this comes into fruition, this could affect people in the higher echelon of salaries who may be looking for jobs that pay six figures or more. Just something to look at. Because on the other hand, Trump will likely argue that Harris's tax plans are an anti-business and somehow will stifle economic growth. Now, he's expected to advocate for keeping his tax cuts in place, arguing that it spurred economic growth and job creation, which is true. Okay, which is true. Now, some people are going to state that it actually wasn't Trump's policy, it was Obama's. And it takes time for policies to kick in gear. So during the Trump presidency, it wasn't anything that Donald Trump did. It was the Obama policies putting themselves into gear, which created job growth, etc. Okay. But let's be real about it, family. Those tax cuts, overwhelmingly benefited the wealthy. Okay, it did. And it added trillions to the national debt. Everybody's talking about how they're going to reduce and or cut the national debt. And all the same while, whether it be the Obama presidency, the Trump presidency, and now the Joe Biden / Kamala Harris presidency, it has all added to the national debt. And I might even pop up the debt calendar, the debt calculator, because I think we're at $34 or $35 trillion in debt to ourselves and to other countries, mainly China. But when we look at the national debt, we have to think about the working class Americans, because we've seen very little benefit, and the promised economic boom really didn't materialize in a meaningful way for most. Because we're going to talk about housing, because housing has exploded when it comes not only buying a home that was probably $300,000, that same home is now $500,000, but as well as the interest rate that goes along with that home. Because now onto the economy, one of the most pressing issues right now with high inflation, unaffordable housing, and economic uncertainty, people are struggling, family. Now, Harris is advocating for policies that directly address these issues. What are these policies she's talking about? I'm still waiting. She's talking about raising the minimum wage, investing in affordable housing, and providing relief for student loan debt. And that's going to get a lot of people the abortion rights, and again, relief for student loan debt. She is also pushing for increased federal investment in job training programs to prepare workers for jobs of the future, especially in the green economy. You know, the one thing I haven't seen from a presidential hopeful, that they're going to go to the university. They're going to go to these nonprofit and these mostly profit, universities and colleges, and tell them to reduce their damn pricing for education in America. Because when you relieve this student debt, who is paying the debt? We are, the American taxpayers. So yeah. It's good for you, right? For those who have student debt. Yeah, that's tremendous. Accolades, great thing. You know, hooray, congratulations. You no longer have student debt. But that's going to raise taxes. It has to raise taxes. Because eventually, if America doesn't continue to raise taxes and we're simply writing away people's debt, America's economy will eventually fall. It will. And that's not me fear-mongering you guys. That's just the nature of finance. You can't just go around this writing people's debt away. It has to be paid in some way. But Kamala, she's also pushing for increased federal investment in job training programs. Okay, and this is also one of the ways I guess she's trying to invest in the green economy. Now, some of you may not like me when I tell you that Trump probably will likely blame the Biden-Harris administration for the current economic woes, which in some regards I agree, despite some of the global factors at play, right? Because again, he'll argue for deregulation, tax cuts, and the so-called America First energy policy that prioritizes fossil fuels over renewable energy. And I think they can work in tandem. I think we can have both fossil fuels and renewable energy. But we've seen this before. The Trump administration policies did little to address the underlying structural issues in our economy. And many of the problems we're facing today were exacerbated by his approach to trade and taxation, right? Let me see what some of you guys are saying, because I'm just looking at this through a very neutral lens. I say I got DSB. He's been a member for 6 months. Shout out, go out to DSB. Thank you for supporting the channel, brother. We also got Volvo and we got Lewis Knows. Anybody have any comments, please put it in the chat. I will address you in kind. Now, I know I said a lot there, family, about these two particular people. But I kind of want to give you my breakdown, my prediction, and my conclusion. But before we get that, bear with me. We got Solo in the house. Thank you for supporting the channel as well. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can go over here. Oh, let's see what she has to say. Lord.
Republican nominee Donald Trump prepare to take the stage tomorrow for their first debate. Our up-to-date CBS News Battleground Tracker shows an extremely tight race in 3 crucial states. That's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Weijia Zhang is in Pittsburgh with the Harris campaign.
Vice President Harris emerged from intense debate preps twice over the weekend for a Sunday stroll with her husband.
Are you ready, Madam Vice President?
Ready.
And to visit a local store.
And we are all in this together.
Yes, we are.
Harris is using extended mock debates to sharpen her case against Trump, while his sessions have been informal, according to sources familiar with their strategies.
It's time to turn the page on the divisiveness. It's time to bring our country together.
Rallying supporters in Wisconsin on Saturday.
We have the dumbest leaders in the history of our country.
Trump said the debate would reveal Harris is, quote, stupid, also taking aim at President Biden.
He is the worst president in history. She will be worse than him. She will be worse than him. And Trump is never wrong. I am never, ever wrong.
In a Truth Social post this weekend, Trump falsely claimed there was rampant cheating in the 2020 election and could be more in 2024. When I win, he wrote, those people that cheated will be prosecuted, which will include long-term prison sentences.
It's unhinged. It's anti-American. And guess what? We are not afraid.
But Trump has a new foe-turned friend who says she's ready to campaign for him. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley.
He knows I'm on standby. I don't agree with Trump on everything, but I agree with him on a lot of the policies. I don't know that I agree with Harris on many policies at all.
Though Harris has picked up the endorsements of former Vice President Dick Cheney and his daughter, former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who called Trump a threat to the Republic.
The Republicans have nominated somebody who is depraved.
Our new poll.
Lord, family. So I don't know who would be the better candidate, but I will give you I will give you, my predictions when it comes to this. And take it however you take it. Because I guess I'm looking at it. I ask myself the question, who's better suited to be president in 2024? When we look at our current state of high inflation, high unemployment, high illegal immigration crossing inside of America, and unaffordable homes, who's the best candidate for America? Now, these are the two that we have to choose from if you are voting. Okay, if you're voting, you're just steadfast. Okay, you're going to vote, but you don't know who's best for the country. And again, this is my opinion. In my opinion, Donald Trump presents a straightforward, no nonsense approach that focused on putting America back on track when it comes to the economy. And given his first term, some people will state that is a proven track record. Before the pandemic hit, we saw historic lows in unemployment across all demographics, okay, especially our community. His tax cuts for businesses and deregulation strategies, it really forces a booming economy that created jobs and increased wages. If there's anything America needs right now, it's a leader who knows how to get economic get our economic engine on again. And unfortunately, being the commander in chief puts him in a leadership position because, again, Lord, this is if, gun to my head, I had to choose a candidate, which I thank God I don't. And also, when we talk about the infrastructure, Trump's approach is about efficiency and results, while Kamala Harris talks about massive government spending that's likely to balloon the national debt. Trump's focus on public-private partnership can get the job done without even burdening taxpayers. His strategy to cut through red tape and get projects moving faster is exactly what's needed to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure without all the bureaucracy delays that often accompany government-led initiatives. And when it comes to trade, Trump's America First policies put American workers and industries at the forefront. His renegotiating of NAFTA into the USMCA brought jobs back to American soil and protected a lot of our manufacturing jobs. Now, his tough stance on China, while, of course, being Trump, being very controversial, being very divisive, in some accords is necessary to address the trade imbalances that have hurt American businesses for decades, okay? Now, and again, this is twofold, family, because a lot of American businesses outsource a lot of their jobs to China, a lot of their jobs to India, a lot of their jobs to that whole Asiatic region. Now, Harris' approach of re-engaging with global partners sounds nice, but in practice, it often means putting Americans second and compromising our economic sovereignty. And on social issues, Trump offers a much-needed counterbalance to the extreme progressiveness that Harris represents. And Trump's commitment to law and order is crucial in a time when crime rates are rising. Now, a lot of people are going to believe that if he's going to give what he stated in one of his rallies, he's basically going to give all police officers, all law enforcement officers a get out of jail free card and give them, which essentially they already have, qualified immunity, but I guess a stronger legislation on qualified immunity, that could be very problematic for Black folk, very problematic. But, and I don't mean but to refute everything I just stated, when we move into his stance on securing the border, and this is not about fear-mongering, it's about protecting American jobs and maintaining national security. His focus on supporting law enforcement and cracking down on illegal immigration is what needed to restore order and stability in America. You know, and in some regards, you talk to Chicagoans, those Black Chicagoans in their community. Now, we talk about taxes and businesses. Trump's policies are pro-growth and pro-business. His tax cuts put more money in the pockets of Americans and encourage investments in the economy. While Harris's plans to raise taxes on corporations, as we stated before, because this can be demonstrous to a lot of businesses, okay? But raise taxes on corporations and the wealthy, it may sound like a way to address inequality. I digress. But in reality, what it does, family, it risks stifling economic growth and driving businesses and jobs out of the country. Because when you start raising these prices, these corporations start to figure out how to send a lot of their workforce or send a lot of the jobs and opportunities overseas. So Trump's strategies of keeping taxes low and reducing regulatory burdens is the best way to stimulate the economy and create jobs and ultimately raise the standard of living for everyone. Here's another thing too, which I haven't really been hearing. Trump and or Kamala Harris needs to raise taxes on corporations that send their jobs overseas and or reduce taxes of corporations that keep their jobs in America. You see what I'm saying? So penalize those who are outsourcing all these jobs overseas and give them tax benefits and tax deductions when they keep these jobs in America. That's my 2 cents, because in times of high inflation, high unemployment, unaffordable homes, we just need to create a stable, prosperous economy. And some people believe that Donald Trump's focus on energy independence, reducing government overreach, and putting American first in trade and foreign policy is the path forward. And I understand this too, family. Donald Trump's style of politics, his leadership style, it's not for everyone. It's not for most people. So there's no denying with his style of business tactics that it has delivered some results. So if you're looking for a president who will put America first, who has a proven track record of his last 4 years in office and a track record of economic success, and who will stand firm on securing the borders, I guess Donald Trump could be the clear choice of 2024 for you. Okay. Now, for those of you, I will give an alternative. Speculation, rhetoric for Kamala Harris. So help me God. But I'll still give a negative insight to Donald Trump, because that was a positive insight on Donald Trump and a negative insight on Kamala Harris. So let me flip the script. Kamala Harris, in some regards, can offer a vision for the future that includes significant investment in infrastructure, social justice, and the green economy. And a lot of people believe that her plans are ambitious. We got to say plans because she has no policies, but they're rooted in the idea that government can and should play a role in addressing systematic inequalities and creating opportunities for Americans. Now, let me point this out because I have yet to state this. Don't forget that neither candidate has specifically stated that they will do anything specifically for foundational Black Americans. That's why I'm on the couch. I digress. Back to Kamala, because her focus on climate change, social justice, and economic equity speaks, some people argue, to the challenges that we face in this particular 21st century. Now, Trump offers a return to his brand of populism, tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulations, and focus on nationalism and protectionism. His policies may resonate with those who feel left behind by globalization and where they believe that the culture of America is changing, but they do little to address the root cause of the issue we're facing, right? His approach to governance often prioritizes short-term gains for wealthy and well-connected over long-term solutions for the average American. So in my view, if you're looking for someone who's going to address the deep-seated issues in our economy, invest in the future, and stand up for all marginalized communities, then Kamala Harris is the better choice, right? Because she's not perfect and her policies will face significant challenges, but she's offering a vision, not policies, a vision that aligns more closely with the needs of a diverse and rapidly changing America. But if you're looking for more of the same, a focus on deregulation, tax cuts for the rich, and a continuation of cultural wars, then Trump is your guy, right? Just be prepared for more division, more inequality, and more of the same issues that we're dealing with in today's economy. So again, I wanted to give you guys both breakdowns of positive and negative of how to possibly look at Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Because again, my predictions and breakdowns and conclusions, I never want to lead you one way or another. So that's why I always give you a comparison. I always give you a compare and contrast. Jaiva Sugar says, I think everybody will hold Kamala to a high standard and Trump very low. Biden had a terrible debate, but Trump was also terribly overlooked. I agree. I do agree. I think both Biden and Trump did horribly, but Biden did, worse than Trump, which is not saying a lot. Sugar also states that Black unemployment was lowest under Biden. Okay. I don't have those statistics in front of me to refute that. Okay. He also says Biden created over 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Trump had a net loss in manufacturing jobs. Okay. A lot of this, which Sugar is stating at this point in time are, I have to fact check. That's what I'm getting at. They're stating that crime rate is lower under Biden. I'm not going to really dive into the crime rate because that is very subjective given certain jurisdictions, certain states, certain regions, etc. Let's see, nonsense states, exactly where are the policies? Really, really good question, real woman. Really good question. Sugar also states that the live stream is trickle down propaganda. Trump would add $5 trillion to the deficit. Okay. So, Sugar, you say that the live stream is trickle down propaganda. So I haven't done this in a while, but I will do this for you. What I'm going to do here now, family, is offer an olive branch to Sugar or Jehovah Sugar. Okay. After I read these two comments, Sugar, look for a link inside of the chat. And you don't have to join with your video. You can just join with your audio and give me your breakdown of why you believe that the live stream is propaganda. Okay. Kamala Chameleon will never get my vote because of her vow past locking up parents. I do understand that. Under 45, it was better. Okay. So let me stop sharing here. Give me a second here, family. Let me put the invite link in case anybody want to join me. But this is an invite to Sugar, Jehovah Sugar. If you want to join the live stream here, I put that in the chat for you. I don't know what platform you are joining from, but if you're on YouTube, if you are on Rumble or anything like that, that link should populate for you. So if you want to join me here and state the claim of this is propaganda, even though I gave both positive and negative outcomes of Kamala and Donald Trump. Again, very neutral, just speaking the truth here. Greece says Kamala is extremely anti-FBA specifically. I would agree to that as well. I will agree to that as well. Greece says I'm for mass deportation with prejudice. Okay. And again, that link, family, is in the chat, and why that person decides if they're going to come here with us live, I will continue the broadcast here. All right, here we go. Let me share my screen once again. I want to kind of go down this article because they're showing some of the they were showing some of the polling on where we at right now when it comes to the amount of delegates that each candidate has. Right now, the Democrats at 226 and the Republicans are at 219. A lot of people have Kamala Harris and Donald Trump neck to neck, okay, that they're pretty much tied, and that this debate will propel either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris ahead of one another. Now, a lot of people are predicting that Donald Trump is going to win the debate, okay? And I'm going to be very, again, this is my opinion. I think it's just going to be a show. I think now I know that the American Republic is not a show, it's not a game, and it's not funny. But unfortunately, I find a lot of these debates like TV shows. They seem very scripted. But Donald Trump always keep it interesting. And if Kamala Harris, if she goes off script, it's going to be even funnier than what I already imagined. I'm just letting you know that now, family. Anytime Kamala Harris is asked a question that she is not comfortable in asking, she do these very uncomfortable giggles. Anything that she's unknowledgeable about, she kind of do these smirks and smiles. And in a debate, if she says next question, like she did with Dana Bash, it's gonna look very bad. Let me look up the national debt calculator very quickly. Let's see where the country is at. Let's see where we're at right now. All right, here's the national debt calculator. And yeah, we're at $35 trillion in debt. We're in $35 trillion in debt. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this particular breakdown. Okay, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this particular breakdown, but it also breaks down per citizen. Debt per citizen is $7,000. Okay. State debt, it seems state debt is $1 trillion. Every state, or this is kind of again an overview, is 1.3 trillion dollars. And you guys can kind of review this for yourself. The national debt calculator is kind of intriguing because it does break things down to a very micro level. If you guys really want to do some analysis on it, you can kind of look down here where it says U.S. imported oil, U.S. trade deficit to China. Okay, the trade balances, money creation. Okay, we're not creating as much money as the amount of debt that we're accumulating. Large budget items, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, defense and war, unfunded debt interest. So a lot of this, again, for those people who are going to be looking at the national debt, job creation, tax cuts, etc., they may lean towards Trump. If people are looking at more social issues like voting rights and abortion rights, they may lean more towards Kamala Harris. So all of these things are to take note of when we look at both of these candidates. FBA Built America says that this VP is Val. And I know what she's talking about. I know what this person is talking about. Because the one thing that I think Black Americans will never forget is when Kamala Harris came out and said,
do you support reparations for Black people?
Well, listen. Again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
That's your girl, Kamala Harris. And during the debate, don't let Kamala Harris get away with this right here.
I want to ask you about your opponent, Donald Trump. I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn Black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
Yeah. Kamala Harris. Next question, when asked about race, that she so happily turned Black. And see, here's the thing. Now, does she have to answer the question? No, she doesn't. She doesn't have to answer the question at all. But it looks very bad when you're being interviewed not to at least address a question other than stating same old tired playbook. No, if you're stating, now when she was running for the district attorney office in California, she basically was running as an Asian American, an Indian Asian American, and she never mentioned that she was Black. Now that she's running for the president of the United States of America, she's biracial. She's both black and Indian. So I think it was a very good question to ask to say, hey, listen, my mother is from India. My father is a black Jamaican, because again, family, being Jamaican does not make you black. Understand that Jamaica is a country. That means that being Jamaican is a nationality, not a race. Okay? Because you have Asian Jamaicans. When I went over to Kenya, when my family and I went to Kenya earlier this year, we saw Indian people from India that were stating that, oh, I'm an Indian Kenyan. I'm like, what do you mean by an Indian Kenyan? Well, I'm Indian, okay, as you can tell, and I'm Kenyan, my nationality. Got it, right? So we have to look at it from that perspective. And her father never publicly, or no reports ever stated that he is a black Jamaican, that he actually refers to himself as black. Okay. If anything, he says nothing about Kamala Harris. He doesn't even show her support or any disdain. But we know that they're at opposites with one another. Let's just say that, because I don't know the full story there. But nonetheless, family, that's the time I have for you guys. Hopefully, you guys found something out of it. We saw that Jehovah Sugar did not want to accept the invite to speak on his claims of that this is propaganda, even though I gave both breakdowns, positive and negative, of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, as I usually do, because I'm neutral in the stance, because until they do something for Foundation of Black Americans, I'm going to be right there on the couch. Because if you're not going to listen to me, and you're not going to listen to the Black empowerment, movement, you're not going to listen to those who are standing up for what is rightfully ours, for those who are standing up for justice for our community, and you're not going to stand up for reparations, then I'll give you a figure. I'll give you someone who has put in the work, someone who sacrificed his life, someone whose life mission was for equal rights, and at the end of his life was for reparations. I'll leave you with his comments and his statements.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white presence from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rate in order that they could mechanize our farm. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. When we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.